Well, today has a very poignant question, and that is it a sin to work on the Sabbath? Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Ultra, where we are taking 5 chapters a day for 100 days. And we kind of got the name after a race called The Ultra, where in 24 hours people will run 100 miles in that 24 hours. And it's like the most difficult thing ever. We're not saying that reading 100 chapters, 100 days in a row, 5 chapters a day is the most difficult thing ever. But we are saying, hey, it takes work and it takes effort, so buckle up and strap in. If you're just now joining us on this journey, maybe even today, if you're unfamiliar with what we're doing, please, it's not too late. Start today. We have so many more days left. We're not even halfway through with our journey, so jump in today. We're in Nehemiah chapter 11 through 15, and hey, go read the 5 chapters today. Tomorrow we'll be on the next 5. The next 5, we're reading over half of our Bible, not half of our New Testament and not half of the Old Testament. We are reading half of the entire Bible in just 100 days. Amazing feat, and we're trying to do it together. So hey, look, hop on the journey. But today, like I said, we are going to be asking the question, is it wrong to work on the Sabbath? That question comes to us from Nehemiah chapter 13, and specifically we're going to be looking in I guess you would say verse 15. And so it says this: in those days I saw men of Judah treading out their wine presses on the Sabbath. They were also bringing in grain, loading it donkeys, bringing their wine, grapes, figs, and all sorts of produce to Jerusalem to sell on the Sabbath. So I rebuked them for selling their product on that day. Some men from Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise. They were selling it on the Sabbath to the people in Judah and Jerusalem at that. So I confronted the nobles of Judah. Why are you profaning the Sabbath in this evil way, I asked. Wasn't it the sort of thing that your ancestors did that caused God to bring all this trouble upon us and our city? Now you are bringing even more wrath upon Israel by permitting the Sabbath to be desecrated in this way. Then I commanded that the gates of Jerusalem should be shut as darkness fell every Friday evening. So remember, when they're writing this, the Sabbath for them would have been Saturday. As for us, it's Sunday. Our week begins on Sunday. Their week began on Saturday. Actually, it began on Friday evening. So it's just which day of the week is first. For them it was that day, for us it's Sunday. That's why you have churches that happen the Sabbath on Sunday. You have some Seventh-day Adventists that say no, you should do on the 7th day, the last day of that week, which would have been Saturday, which makes sense because on the 7th day God rested. So they think, you should do that on the last day. We say it's the first day because man woke up, and he woke up on the 6th day and was like, oh, what's going on? And on the 7th day, God rested. So for man's first day was their rest day. So it's just which way you view it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, that's what Paul says, right? He says, no matter which day of the Lord that you celebrate, if it's this day or that day, just as long as you have a day, that's the most important thing. So we're taking a day, which for us is Sunday, and setting aside, not doing any work. So then I commanded, verse 19, that the gates of Jerusalem be shut, not opened again until the Sabbath ended. Now take notice that it was a leader that didn't give people an option, but shut the city down so that trade could not happen. And maybe, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe we need a leader to step up and say, hey, it will not be possible for work to begin on the Sabbath. Let's keep on going though. Verse 20, the merchants and the tradesmen of variety of things camped outside Jerusalem once or twice, but I spoke sharply to them and said, "What are you doing out here camping around the wall? If you do this again, I will arrest you." And that was the last time they came out on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites to purify themselves. Remember the Levites from last video. And to guard the gates in order to preserve the holiness of the Sabbath. And so here's the question. Is it wrong to work on the Sabbath? Right in this passage, we see that it was wrong to sell goods and merchandise for people just to leisurely buy, like fruits and vegetables, on the Sabbath. They could have bought that any day of the week, but the Sabbath was for people to rest and for people not to have to mandatory go into work. And I know this is controversial. But before I get to the controversial part, let me say this, okay? There are some industries that cannot shut down on a Sunday. Let me give you this example, okay? Jesus says, if an ox falls into a well, and I guess I should maybe even read this to you, but he says, if an ox falls into a well, do you not go into the well to get it? Well, how much more important is a human or a life than this ox? So let me type this on ChatGPT. Speaks on the Sabbath about donkey. I'll find out where it is. Let's look. I'll read this to you in the New Testament. Luke 13. I just ChatGPT it and it pops right up. It tells me exactly where to go. So there's that. 13 verse 10. So on the Sabbath day, Jesus was teaching in the synagogue. He saw a woman who had crippled by an evil spirit. She had been bent double for 18 years. I don't know really what bent double means, but I'm just thinking her back was bent like this. And was unable to stand up straight. So maybe that is exactly what it is. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and she said, "Dear woman, do you want to be healed of your sickness?" Then he touched her and instantly she could stand up straight. How she praised God. But verse 14, the leader in charge of the synagogue was indignant, which is like insane, like you know, maybe madness, anger, livid and indignant. I mean, it's just like an upscale. So he was as mad as Batman can be, past wanting to fight, just fuming on the mouth maybe. And so he said, "There are 6 days of the week for working," he said to the crowd. "Come on those days to be healed, and not on the Sabbath." But the Lord replied, "You hypocrites! Each of you on the Sabbath day works on the Sabbath day. Don't you untie your ox or your donkey from its stall on the Sabbath day and lead it out for water? This dear woman, a daughter of Abraham, has been held in bondage by Satan for 18 years. Isn't it right that she be released even on the Sabbath?" This shamed his enemies, but all people rejoiced at the wonderful things that he did. So it was this idea of healing, right? Like Jesus heals this girl. So there are some occupations that can be done. And I'm not trying to be legalistic, so if I'm being legalistic, just forgive me and just tune out of the video. I do think there are occupations that can be run on the Sabbath. Anything to heal somebody spiritually, mentally, physically, those are all good things. There are also jobs, occupations, I believe that we see in Nehemiah in chapter 13, that should not be open on the Sabbath, and that is just goods and services of produce, of donkeys, and of trade. Maybe those things should not be allowed to be open on Sunday, and I think we probably take Sunday way too lackadaisical. I'll give you this example, okay? There's this fish house beside where I live. And it's a great fish house. The people who own it are great. And I'm not talking about them in any type of way. But they have just, in the last year or two, opened on Sundays. And at first they said, they kind of pitched to their workers, "Hey, do you want to work on Sunday?" They just gave them an option. And if people decided they would, they said, "Yeah, we'll work on Sunday, we'll work on Sunday." So they did. And enough of them volunteered, said, I will. Several of the workers said, no, I'll go to church. I'm not working on Sunday. They said, okay, that's fine. You never have to. Well, a year goes by, and now the people who said that they would work on Sundays aren't wanting to work on Sundays. They want the day off. Not necessarily go to church, I don't think. Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know them. So let me just say, I don't know why they want off. They just said they want it off. So the people, the owners of the fish house said, you know what we're going to have to do now? We can't get anybody to work on Sundays. We're having our biggest crowds because people come out to church. We're going to mandate that every single person on our staff at least has to work 2 Sundays a month. And that's wrong. That you're forcing people not to have the option to go to church so that they can provide for their family. And that is wrong leadership. And so in this situation, Nehemiah said, you know what, we're not even going to give people the option. We're just going to close the whole city down. And I think that there are some times that that's maybe what we should do. If you're a businessman or you're a businesswoman or you're somehow in leadership in the government, I don't know who all watches these things, but hey, just shut it down and don't even give people the option to come in. And especially, because it's a sin if you do this. Like, you will be held responsible if you stop somebody from going into the house of God. Because you say, I want to keep a yoke on you and make you come into work. That's going to be on you. Now, once again, there are certain, I don't know, maybe places that can't shut down that's biblically okay. I'm thinking of hospitals. I'm even thinking about, I would even say crisis pregnancy centers. Things, I mean, you get the idea. For people's health, mentally, physically, spiritually, that need to be open on Sundays. Yes, but by and large, most places are not like that. By and large, most places aren't like that. And we take advantage of God by just saying, Sunday's just another day. We're going to have golf on Sunday. We're going to have NFL on Sunday. We're going to have basketball on Sunday. We're going to have sports on Sunday. We'll have even high school sports on Sunday. And God is not pleased with that. God is not pleased like that. Even if you're a coach listening to this and you cause your students to have to play on Sunday, or practice on Sunday, like, shame on you. Like, really, shame on you. Well, we don't start practice till 1 o'clock. We give people enough time. The Bible says nothing about a time. It says a whole day that you give to the Lord, not just an hour here or there. So, and maybe that's not popular, and I don't really care if it's popular or not, because that's what the Lord says, I believe. And I think that's what He's required in His law. So anyways, that's my little bit of information that I got from Nehemiah. So feel free to leave in the comment section if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, or maybe just what you got from these 5 chapters. And tomorrow we're going to be starting a new book of the Bible. And I actually think we're going to be going over to Psalms with Mr. Donnie, maybe. So I'm thinking tomorrow is going to be Psalms, but I'll leave it in the description box below and at the end of this video. So until then, peace.